Picture the most famous moment in American history, a grand, divine birth of democracy that we honor with fireworks and an annual celebration of absolute freedom. But as we approach the monumental 250th anniversary of this event in 2026, we have to confront an uncomfortable reality. We see it in textbooks and hanging in the Capitol Rotunda. Delegates gathered in perfect harmony, lining up to sign a document that instantly birthed a free nation. Almost everything in that picture is an illusion. The story we celebrate has been heavily sanitized. What really happened in the summer of 1776 was far darker and messier. The revolutionary project was filled with fierce rivalries, brutal exclusions, and a deeply uncertain future that nearly collapsed before it even began. To truly understand how this nation survived its infancy, we have to dismantle the comforting mythology and face the precarious reality underneath. When you peel back the layers of history and look at the actual rooms where the future of the continent was decided, you find prolonged, bitter debates over the very nature of power, liberty, and governance. The founders were brilliant, passionate, and fiercely divided. Men like Alexander Hamilton, Patrick Henry, and Thomas Jefferson clashed constantly in ideological wars over whether power should be concentrated or kept close to the people. These disagreements were severe. By the time of the Constitutional Convention, the delegates were so fraught with anger and shifting alliances that they argued for months, and the entire enterprise came close to falling apart completely. Then there is the timeline of the signing itself, which hides a strange discrepancy between the celebrated anniversary and the historical record. The legal vote for independence happened on July 2nd, the day John Adams believed future generations would celebrate. July 4th was simply the day the text was formally debated and adopted. The grand, meticulously orchestrated ceremony we imagined happening on that day never occurred. The official engrossed parchment was not even ready for signatures until weeks later. The main signing took place on August 2nd, kicking off a chaotic, staggered process that dragged on for months, with some delegates never getting the chance to sign at all. John Trumbull's legendary painting is a piece of political art, deliberately combining men who did not sign with those who did, to project a false sense of compelling, symbolic unity. The declaration was a bold proclamation of intent, a piece of political propaganda designed to justify a rebellion and attract foreign allies like France. When those delegates pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, they were actively committing treason against the most powerful empire on earth. Their signatures triggered 7 years of bloody warfare. The initial euphoria dissolved into severe supply shortages, military defeats, and the freezing, starvation-filled winter at Valley Forge. Even beyond the battlefield, the newly formed states squabbled constantly over borders, trade, and the respective contributions to the war effort. The document you see here is the Articles of Confederation, their first, incredibly weak attempt at a national government. The extreme weakness of this framework triggered a decade of political instability and profound economic turmoil across the states. The act of declaring independence did not solve their major political challenges. It pushed the entire revolutionary project to the brink, nearly causing it to collapse into total failure. The ringing of the Liberty Bell carries the promise of universal liberty, yet the democracy designed in the late 18th century remained a deeply hierarchical reality. By modern standards, the designed democracy was profoundly exclusive. The fundamental right to vote was largely restricted to a small subset of the population, tied to property ownership. This explicitly disenfranchised the vast majority of men who did not own land, while women, Native Americans, and free black men were shut out entirely by law and custom. Beneath the soaring rhetoric that all men are created equal lay a glaring contradiction. The document declaring universal equality was signed by many men who actively owned other human beings. The lofty ideals of liberty did absolutely nothing to resolve the institution of slavery. Instead, slavery continued and expanded rapidly in the decades that followed. It was a deep and festering wound, embedded right into the new nation, ensuring that the country would eventually be torn apart in a catastrophic civil war. Looking at this unvarnished truth as we prepare to mark 250 years since 1776 does not destroy the significance of what the founders achieved. Replacing the flawless miracle with a messy, dangerous experiment undertaken by people forced to navigate unimaginable uncertainty makes the American story far more powerful. They left behind a legacy of profound contradictions, building a framework for freedom while simultaneously denying it to millions. The true meaning of this anniversary is recognizing that the promise of 1776 was merely a dangerous starting line. America is defined by the relentless, often painful struggle to finally make those revolutionary ideals a reality for everyone.